what happens if for example, someone went to a B1, B2, and the uh, question one is their previous I-94, the H1B I-94 is still valid, while the B1, B2 has expired. Sorry, B1, B2 is pending. They tried to change status to B1, B2. And number two, what happens if the I-94 has expired in between? So, and how easy or tough it is to actually just get into people have tried during COVID. I'm not sure, as an attorney you should have those kind of statistics on how many were actually approved to a B2 status. So can you throw some light on this?
Yeah, so if basically in order to, one way of doing it, of staying in status, as we discussed, is, other than filing a transfer, because you might not always get a job within that 60 days period, is to file a change of status. And one could file a change of status to an F1, or one could file a change of status to a B2, or one could file a change of status to a H4 if you have a spouse who's on a H1. So those are the three most commonly used options. B2, because not everyone will have a spouse who's on a H1, seems to be the most popular option, but it's not necessarily a good option. It may be the best option that there is for you, but it may not necessarily be a good option, because the problem with filing a change of status from a H1 to a B2 is the processing time. The processing time, it takes 8 to 10 months for them to process that B2 application. And in the interim, then you'll have to find a job in the interim. Because what will happen then is, by the time the B2 approval comes in, the validity of the B2 will already be over. So it'll be an approval, but it won't have any validity, because when you're filing a B2, you can only file for a 6-month validity period, meaning you can only ask to remain in the country for another 6 months. So if it comes in 10 months, obviously, then you're not going to be able to use that approval. So within that 6-month period, while it is still pending, most probably, because it's not going to get approved before 6 months for sure, you will have to file again a change of status from a B2 to a H1. And when you do that, you will do that based on the receipt notice. You will submit the receipt notice. You will tell USCIS this is a bridging petition, and you will file it accordingly. But what's happening with USCIS is sending out RFEs for bridge petitions. And there are a lot of petitions that they're not approving, though they themselves have said that a bridge petition can be filed. They're sending out RFEs asking for the B2 approval, when they themselves are taking 10 months to approve it, and you have no control over the processing of your B2, and there is no premium processing as of now for B2. They're asking for the B2 approval, and they're sending out an RFE and giving you 80 days to respond. And if you don't have that B2, if you don't respond within that period of time, you can always argue with them that this is a bridging petition and we don't need the actual approval. We only have to show that the case was approvable when it was filed. But again, that argument is not always succeeding in the recent cases that we filed. So this is something to keep in mind. It depends on the officer, of course. But if it doesn't succeed, then what will happen is they will approve the H1B. They will not approve the change of status portion of it, which means that the approval will come within I-94. And then you'll have to leave the country. And if you have a visa stamped on your passport, well and good, you can come back using that I-797 with the stamp that you have. Or you'll have to go to the consulate and get a new visa stamp on your passport before you come in. So that's the situation with the B2.
Okay. All right. Thanks for answering that question.